Going live. You are live. What's up? It's Friday. Thank you for being here for another afternoon devotion. As you can see, we got special guest Brett here with us today. He's getting ready to leave next week and hanging out with us a little bit today. So invited him to be a part of it. So as always, we we start with what we're thankful for. Luke's already chimed in with it. I'm thankful for Brett. I'm thankful we get to hang out with him and thankful for him joining us today. So those of you out there, let me know if you're watching, who's out there, and what you are thankful for today. Tim, I see you. Hello. What are you thankful for today? Getting some, let's see, Alec is thankful for family. Eric is thankful for rain. I like both of those. Brett, what are you thankful for today?
Yeah, I'm thankful for airplanes because when I leave, it sounds like a lot. It's going to be 28 hours of flying and layovers. But like if you read missions history, these people would take boats for like 3-4 months to get from one place to another. So 28 hours doesn't sound so bad. When
that's better than like leaving now and getting there like October or something.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That's awesome, man. So we're excited for what God has called Brett to. So anyway, let me know what else you guys are thankful for today. And with that said, let's get into quarter team games. And I have 2 quarters. We'll get to that in a second. So last time we talked about question was, what year was NASA created? What do you? I'm gonna get to the answer in a second, but I'm surprising Brett. He didn't know the question. So if you had to guess what year NASA was created, what would you guess?
1956.
1956. Okay, so you guys are really close on your guesses. You did a really good job. The correct answer was 1958. So nice job. We had a tie. Eric said 1956. Smart. Alex said 1960. So you guys are both just 2 years off. So you each get a quarter. So nice job there. And we've got 2 questions for you today. So I'll have one, and then Brett's going to have one about Senegal, which is where he's heading. So on this date in 1968, a new character named Franklin, a little African-American boy, debuted in the Peanuts comic strip with Charlie Brown and Lucy and Linus and all those. The writer, Charles Schulz, had been asked to include an African-American child in there, which I think was awesome and was sadly kind of a risky thing at that time. So anyway, really cool thing on this day, 1968. But talking about Peanuts, here's your actual question, okay? How many Peanuts comic strips did Charles Schulz write? He did that comic strip for a long time. How many Peanuts comic strips did he make? How many Peanuts comic strips are there? So there's question 1. How many Peanuts comic strips? And then Brett has a question for you about Senegal. So question number 2. Go ahead.
All right. So Senegal is in Northwest Africa, and that's where I'm moving to. And so the question is, what percentage of the land is covered in forest? What percentage of the land is covered in forest? Your answer, since it's a percentage, can be 0, meaning there's like no forest at all, or 100, which means the whole thing is forest everywhere you go. So 0 to 100, I'll give you a hint. It's neither of those.
We are narrowing it down for you. You're welcome. So, all right. So you got 2 questions there. Let me know what your guesses are for those. All right. So let's get into, and be sure you get 2 answers in. Okay. All right. Let's get into our study. So we're starting a new series today on women in the Bible. I'm really excited about this. And I'm really excited too. One thing that we're going to do along with this is for a lot of these, we're going to get to hear from some of our current youth girls, some of our former youth girls, some of our like pastors' wives and ladies in our church, just sort of about who their favorite woman in the Bible is and why, like what has impacted them and what impresses them or whatever about these different women. So I hope I'm really expecting this to be a great benefit to all of us, but I hope sort of hearing those voices will sort of add another layer of meaning and appreciation and lessons that we can learn from those. So anyway, we are starting that with makes sense. We're going to start at the beginning. We're going to start with Eve today. So the main story that we know about Eve and the fall comes from Genesis chapter 3. And so Brett and I have been talking about this. And so we've sort of got three big ideas that we want to sort of get across, some things that we can learn from Eve. So the first one, when we read the story in Genesis 3, the first thing, and the thing that we probably know most about Eve, is how she was deceived by the serpent, right? We see that especially like verses 1-6 in chapter 3. And I think that reminds us of how easily we are deceived when we're tempted, how easily we are deceived by Satan's temptations and strategies and stuff. I read a really cool quote this week by a guy named Matt. I think you say his name's Smethurst, and maybe Smethurst, whatever. He was talking about like Satan's strategies, and that part of Satan's strategy is when you are tempted, he will minimize Christ's beauty. And which sort of reminds me of what happened with Eve and sort of putting doubt into Eve's mind about, does God really know what he's doing? Does God really love you? Does he really want what's best for you? Does he really know what he's doing? Satan will cause us to doubt that God's way is good and best for us. And I know, Brett, you had sort of had something else that you were thinking about that sort of connected with that too.
Yeah, so in John 10:10, I'm just going to read this. Jesus is talking. He says, the thief, meaning Satan, referring to Satan here, comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. So abundantly. I really like that phrase. Like when Jesus comes to give us new life, to free us from sin and toward righteousness, it's a better life.
Yeah.
It's something like way better, like being obedient and righteous and being conformed to the image of Christ through the Spirit is way better than all the sin I'm messing around with and, flirting with. And so that's kind of my encouragement to you guys is like Paul will use these athletic metaphors, like strive for these things. Don't just try to fall into righteousness. Pursue it. It's so much better. It's the abundant life that Jesus promised.
Yeah, I love that phrase. And honestly, it reminds me, like we talked just a couple of weeks ago, like walking through 2 Peter about like being diligent to work toward Christ, right? We sort of joked about the whole Geico commercial and put in that work, Devin, right? We want to put in that work to shun evil and to choose righteousness. And so that's really good. Good reminders for us there. So the second thing that I think we see in Eve's life, I'm going to read real quick. The verse 20 in chapter 3 says, the man called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. And they say that because Eve sounds like the Hebrew word for life giver, and it sort of sounds like the word for living. So, I read that and I see that there is honor, great honor in being a mother and in giving life. And I think that's a really good reminder for us as well. And the third thing, and we really want to emphasize this, the third thing that we really wanted to talk about with these, with Eve is that in verse 15, we talked about this Christmas Eve, by the way, this is part of the curse on the serpent. But God tells the serpent, Satan, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. This is something that we call the euangelion, which is sort of like the first gospel. We have this prophecy about one who would come from Eve that would destroy the serpent, which we know is pointing us forward to Jesus. Even all the way back here at the very beginning with Eve, we have this prophecy about Jesus coming to rescue us. It reminds me that God works to redeem us, both redeem us and our mistakes, which is such an encouragement. But I know, Brett, you had also talked about sort of some connections that we can see from that with Eve and other parts of the scripture. So tell them about what you were talking about.
Yeah. So there's obviously a ton of connections as the first few chapters of the Bible. It's, pervades the scriptures. It's all over. So I'll mention two, and then I'll leave a third one for you guys to think about. So the first one is about the tree. So the church fathers, early church Christians and stuff made this connection between like this tree that brings death to Adam and Eve, and then the tree that Jesus is crucified on that brings life to us. So there's this connection between these two trees.
That's cool.
The second one is it focuses on when Satan's tempting Eve, he wants her to take and eat this fruit, right, that they're not supposed to eat. And it's a connection with Jesus in the Last Supper that he tells us to take and eat that as Christians. Again, through one, the fruit comes death. Through another, the Lord's body and blood comes life. And so here's the third one that I will not answer. That's for you guys. So Eve, as the first woman, has a bunch of connections to other women in Scripture. So what you guys should do is think about who does Eve connect to, and how does she connect to these other women in Scripture? So don't just say, oh, well, these are two women, they connect. Like, try to figure out what the connection is and what that can show us.
Really good stuff. Really good stuff, man. I love this guy. I love his knowledge of the word, his love for the word, and how he encourages me and all of us to grow in that. So some really, really good lessons from Eve that we can learn and apply in our own lives. So I'll be honest, I'm still sort of working through these. I'm not 100% sure which lady we'll be studying next on Monday. We'll be back Monday at 3:00 with our next in this series about women in the Bible. So be here for that. Don't forget about our core team questions. If you haven't commented or sent your stuff in, let me know what your ideas are for our 2 questions today about how many Peanuts comic strips are there is the first one. And second, what percentage of the nation of Senegal, where Brett is going, is covered in forest? So there you go. There's your 2 questions. So one number, 1 percentage. Let me know what you think. And that's it. So thanks for being here, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys hopefully on Sunday morning at church. And then Monday afternoon for the next one as well. So love you guys. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you later.